What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here with Sam Vitale. Sam, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey, you doing good, John? Thanks for having me on. How you doing, buddy?
Yes, sir. Doing good. Hey, it's Hell Week. I don't know if you knew that or not, but there's actually people that didn't know that. So if they're not in touch, there's nothing I can really do about that. But it's Hell Week, and I got to be honest with you, I didn't even know it was called Hell Week until I heard about this year. Have you always known it as Hell Week?
I've actually I think you're just telling me that now for the first time.
I actually heard about it. Supposedly, it's a thing. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm the one living in the dark. I'm talking trash about these people that don't even know that it's Hell Week. I don't even know what the hell Hell Week is going
Huh.
into it.
I guess they don't use it that much because typically in office environments, it's wear your blue or wear your green, and most bosses aren't advertising, "Hey, everybody, it's Hell Week."
Yeah, you got yourself a point there. So it's just what the kids are saying nowadays. And in my advanced years, I got to get back in tune with what's cool and whatnot. So hey, nevertheless, Hell Week is here. Michigan versus Michigan State playing at the Big House. Uh, Early predictions. What are we looking at going into this game? I know we had some conversation about it pre-show, but I didn't want to spill the beans. I'll let you do it. How you feeling going into this weekend?
To be honest, I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to predict this game. I don't even really know where to start. Sharon Moore said that Jack Tuttle is going to start again this week. I don't even know what to do with that. I mean, we're having very short leashes right now with our quarterbacks. Maybe he starts the first couple possessions, then maybe Orchie comes in. Is that the right choice, or will they put in Davis Warren? I mean, it's going to be hopefully a mixture of hot hand and who controls the ball, who protects the ball the best. But really, right now, because of all the variables on the Michigan side and because of the turnover trouble that we've had, it's really hard to predict how this game is going to go.
Yeah, it's at the Big House, obviously, and I said this before too. Michigan has no reason to hang their heads, and I'd say this to Cody, I'd say this to Connor, I'd say this to any of our Michigan guys. No reason to hang your heads because the sequel can't be as good as the original. It never has been. If you're a movie buff, you know that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to look at and look at the upside, and I don't. People think I'm coming off trying to console them and whatnot. No, I'm dealing with grown men. I don't have to console anybody. But that's just the reality of the situation. They accomplished the highest goal in college football in the last year of the 4-team format. Really, I think it's harder to win in a 4-team format scenario with college football playoff than it would be in a 12-team, which is what we're going to see going forward. So there's a lot of reason to keep your heads up. But because of that, you want to have something that can amount to that you can build off of going into subsequent years. So, and we're kind of in a rebuild here over in East Lansing too. So we're kind of in the same boat, in the same state, kind of dealing with the same things in a lot of the same ways. New head coaches, new regimes, new styles of offense, new players, new personnel. There's a lot of new things that we're gonna have to get used to on both sides. So I kind of feel that way too. Obviously, Aiden Childs, is he the guy? Is he growing into that position as a quarterback at Michigan State? Obviously, in a rebuilding phase after the Mel Tucker scandal. That's going to take some time to rebuild from, I think. And I speak for a lot of Michigan State fans when I say that. But just the whole offense, you've seen some shakiness. You've seen success in flashes. You look at this line, plus 4.5 going to the Big House. I don't think it's really out of pocket. I don't think this is going to really squeeze a whole lot. Maybe another half point might come down to 4. I mean, maybe 3.5, but I don't really see it coming down a whole lot. I guess just looking at the spread, how do you think the spread replicates what we've seen thus far from both these teams?
It's hard to say. 5.5 seems fair. You get that 3 points baked in for home field, right? It's just as a Michigan diehard, it's hard to tell what to do with that because we're not used to losing games as favorites. Though we've done it in Washington now, and we did. No, we were dogs in Washington. We just did in Illinois last week, so that's different. You kind of like to take that opening line and just trust that that's what the metrics say is going to happen. Vegas ran 100,000 simulations, and that's what should happen now. Well, the faith is a little bit shaky after the Illinois loss uh, last week. So I I don't know. I tend to lean that if you're going to bet this game, try to look at something other than just the line. Can you get an edge on the total points? Can you maybe look at how either team is performing by the half? That's more so where I think maybe some money could be made or some sense could be made out of that line.
Yeah, you look at the line last week, it was Michigan minus 5.5. You see that only come down a point to Michigan State this weekend after a big win against Iowa, which, to be honest with you, I was in East Lansing last week. I didn't go to the game. I tailgated, had a couple beers, and, talked to some of the locals over there. But I didn't go to the game. And that was kind of, a surprise on the other side of success, where you didn't really expect them to win, even at home, just with what you've seen so far. 3 losses, not looking too good already this far in the season. But there's a lot to build from off of that win. So you see that strength in flashes. You see that offense come together and score some points, and the defense make some really good stands when they have to against good teams that are on a roll. So it's like, what can you really expect? I feel like betting, no matter what, in the Big Ten especially, it's really kind of, even this far in the season, where usually we're not in this spot where we're thinking, okay, this game's going to be a crapshoot. Usually you're feeling pretty good about certain teams winning or losing certain games
Yeah.
at this point in the season, at least in conference play. And I feel like we haven't seen that a whole lot in the Big Ten, but there's a lot of season left. I think we're kind of towards the halfway mark, if not already there. And we're getting into the thick of it. So it only gets more interesting from this point. But I guess just looking at that Illinois game, where did Michigan fall short, and how did they succumb to Illinois?
There's a handful of one-offs that I don't know how hard to be on the team or how hard to be on the coaching staff for the fake punt. That hurt us. That hurt us so bad. I just don't know. I don't know who to point the finger at, and I don't know if it's really worth it. It's the first time in my Michigan fandom that I remember us getting got by a fake punt. So I don't know if I really want to beat anybody over the head with that. We also had a blocked field goal. So that's something else on the special teams. It's like, I mean, I guess you could just rip our special teams and our special teams coordinator, but those are such rare events, especially for us, that it's, they're two obvious places that we went wrong, though. That, and if you saw the opening drive for Michigan, Jack Tuttle just missed a couple of wide open receivers. One of the prayers that I say at night is, I want to be like some of these SEC teams when you watch them, and out of nowhere, seems like once every set of downs, they've just got a dude standing wide open somewhere. Just broke a complete zone. He's sitting right in between two defenders, and they just drop a ball for him. I pray for that. We had that. We had that all over the place last week, and we couldn't hit them. Go watch the All 22. There's a guy named Amarian Walker on our team, 6'3", biggest wideout that we have. All the guy does is find an open spot downfield, beating zones, just sitting right in pockets. Typically the whole shot last week, if you watched. And he's just standing there, biggest target on the field, wide open, and we can't hit the guy. I mean, what is that? So that's part of my frustration, and part of the reason why I'm hesitant to really want to call the Michigan State game going either way. If that's what we're going to do with quarterback play, that's so unpredictable. That is so unpredictable, especially coming off of that game. That was the third time we lost in Champaign. I think it was like 54 years. It's the third time we've lost there, and that's the lowest point total we've had, 7 points. That's the lowest we've had since, I want to say, 2019. Like, it's just a weird team right now. It's a weird team, probably the worst coach team that we've had, probably the least confident, probably the least disciplined team that we've had. Between the turnovers and the penalties, it's just really hard to say what we're going to do. If we come out looking like we did in the Penn State game, just not being able to execute, not being disciplined, MSU might have quite a night tomorrow.
You mentioned in the pre-show the struggles that Michigan's had at quarterback, and struggles at the quarterback position for Michigan is really not a new subject. You talk about the J.J. Cade era. There were some struggles during that that point in the Michigan's existence too, back not too long ago during the Jim Harbaugh regime. Uh, how do you think they manage that? How do you emerge from that? And especially with a loss like this going forward into the season, the rest of the season, how do you reclaim what's yours and really find that? And you got to have a quarterback that's going to find the open man, right? Especially if you got a guy like you just mentioned, find the open pockets, find the spot, we'll hit you. You know you're going to be hit, but except they're not getting hit. You're not getting the catches. You're not getting the opportunities. So how do you emerge from that, and where do those problems stem from?
Are you buckled in?
I am. I just strapped up.
So one thing I don't want to do is blame the coaching staff for not using the transfer portal. That's something I commonly hear. When the portal opened in December, we were prepping for the Rose Bowl, whereas teams like Ohio State, they got to go fly down to Manhattan, Kansas, and go talk to Will Howard because they weren't prepping for a bowl game. We were. We were too busy for that, so we couldn't go look in the transfer portal for the next guy. Not only that, but it wasn't certain whether or not JJ was going to move on and go to the NFL. So we didn't know what we were going to have this time last year. It was completely up in the air. So the transfer portal, I'll give the coaching staff some grace there. Now, as far as evaluating the quarterback room, that's where I have a bit of a problem. From spring, even during the spring game, it was pretty obvious that everybody thought that Orgy was going to be the guy. In Michigan circles, Michigan insiders, and intel, we're all talking about Orgy has the job. It's his job to lose. Jack Tuttle has all the experience, but he didn't even play in the spring. His shoulder needed a surgery. So Tuttle didn't take any reps in the spring. It was Orgy's job. We get into the fall camp, and everybody's talking about the offense is beating the defense in these 7-on-7s in these scrimmages. Being run by Orgy. And again, Tuttle was very limited on reps that he could take in fall camp because he had tweaked that arm again. I say arm because it's unknown whether it was shoulder or elbow. It was probably shoulder. But he wasn't able to take as many reps as he would have needed to be named the starter. So just a couple weeks before the season starts, turns out Orgy can't control the ball anymore. He can't protect the ball anymore. So that's why Davis Warren starts. And then you go in and Warren's falling apart. So we throw an Orgy. We're on the quarterback carousel. We've got Tuttle in there now. It seems like we have no idea what's in the quarterback room. And it also seems like we've not developed the guys in this quarterback room. Jack Tuttle's been in college for 7 years. Has he had no development? Orgy's been with Michigan. Warren's been with Michigan for 3 years. Have they had no development? I mean, this is the worst quarterback room in college football. That's a wild thing to be saying about the University of Michigan. How did we get there? That's where it stems from. Lack of development, lack of understanding what we have in the room. Where do we go from here? It's hard to say. It's hard to say how we get out of it. The easy way to get out of it is to have our quarterbacks protect the ball. That's number one. If we could just protect the ball and limit turnovers, our season would look a little bit different. It really would. If you go back and you look at the timing of our turnovers during our losses, it would really make a big difference. There's a place that I want to go there that I'm just not going to. You probably know where I want to go, but that is what it is. I've got a pretty grim outlook on where we go from here. I would like to see if we can't move the ball tomorrow night, even if we can't move the ball, it's not working. Our quarterback's not protecting the ball. I think I'd like to see Jaden Davis play. A lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of people go, well, he redshirted. It was a decision made by his family. They want him to redshirt. He needs to grow. He needs to physically get bigger, which is wild. He left high school a semester early. He's been with the team since last January. He was with us at the Rose Bowl. He was with us for the Natty practicing. If he's not ready to step in now, how's he going to be ready in 9 months? I don't really know that you get that much progression over 9 months. So I don't know. That's a big place where the fan base is torn right now, is what to do with Jaden Davis. Everybody who says he's not ready, he needs the red shirt, we can't burn the red shirt. I'm going to tell you the same thing that I tell people when they say smoking cigarettes isn't cool. Grow the hell up, okay? We need somebody to step in here and run this team. We've got wide open men downfield. Hit them. Hit them. Are you a 4-star quarterback or not? If you are, hit them. We need a quarterback who, when he needs to pull the ball and run it, can actually hold it. Can actually hold it without getting stripped. Are you a 4-star quarterback or not? If you are, then you can do that. And we need that right now. What's the point in holding the red shirt? So that you can still be here in 2028? Is that the way that college football is working right now? Is that you stay with the team for 5 straight years? I mean, at this rate, I hate to say it, Sharon Moore's not going to be the coach here in 2028. The way that this is looking right now, burn the red shirt. What are we doing?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean, and Jaden Daniel, I almost said Jaden Daniels, Jaden Davis. If not now, then when? You want to have him. There's a reason he's in Ann Arbor. It's not by a fluke. Okay, you have the options. You might as well utilize those options. And he's not going to progress to the next level if he doesn't get the reps right now,
Yeah.
because you got young guys, you got even redshirted guys that are getting PT in a lot of different teams throughout the league. Where if you're having struggles at quarterback, it's time to try something new, and that's on Sharon Moore, I think, to make that call. Um, so you can slice it however you want to, but Sam, I think Michigan would be a lot better spot if you were on the sidelines, maybe making some calls. I don't
And
know.
that's my dream. They need to replace Connor Stallion somehow.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Connors, okay, Connor, not Connor Stallions. Okay, I was going to ask you that. What's the chances that Connor Stallions finds his way back on a Michigan sidelines? Is there any potential for that?
I think there's 100% chance he's at the game tomorrow night.
Oh, he will be in there. Maybe in disguise. He might be wearing a Mr. Potato Head sunglasses. Might be on the sideline somewhere. Maybe even wearing some green and white. You never know.
Awesome.
Our own Connor Matlock predicted Michigan, University of Michigan to win 23-16 at the Big House, regardless of the spread. Obviously, spreads, I think, in a game like this go somewhat out the window. That's why I guess I would like to see, at least at this point in the season, and you think Vegas, even with the 1,000, what do you call them? 1,000 simulations.
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
like to see something where you got more of a even line, at least in some of those sims. I'm sure you did, and I'm sure they did. So I guess what would lead to a Michigan win? You mentioned ball security. Obviously, that's got to be first and foremost. Is there any problems at the offensive line that is preventing the quarterback from getting time back there to find the open man, or is it just completely quarterback error?
No, I mean there's a lot of moving pieces with the offensive line. It's a group that's been rotating in and out all year, really. But that being said, it's no excuse for the turnovers by our quarterbacks. Getting to this 23-16 score that we have here, I think that could be achieved really quite easily just by controlling the ball and hitting wide open receivers, using our running back room the way that they need to be used to thrive. That being run Donovan Edwards outside the tackles, run Khalil Mullings inside the tackles, doing just simple stuff like that, using Donovan Edwards as a receiver, going to our tight end room as many times as possible. Our tight ends don't miss. If Colson Loveland's not in the game, Marlon Klein, he throws down. He gets his catches, he gets his yards. He couldn't even play last week. Hogan Hansen stepped in. He was our leading receiver last week. He has the longest reception of anybody on our team this year. He has a 40-yard reception. Go to the tight ends. If we can pull those things off, that score right there is it's pretty realistic.
Yeah, I think it's possible too. To get to that score, obviously, we've seen the flashes with both teams in success. You got to go to what worked. If you're either side, go to what works and what has worked, and exploit that to the highest degree. So we'll have to see what happens moving on going forward. I wanted to get your take on the just real quick on the Will Howard error that was made with Ohio State. We talked about it last week against Oregon. Obviously lost 31-32, or was it 31-30? One of the two. It was a 1 point game, came down to the wire. You had some things that happened late, some penalties that happened late for Ohio State that didn't allow them to execute the 2 minute drill successfully. Uh, what did this come down to? We also mentioned the defensive coordinator on Oregon to, say, oh, let's throw 12 men on the field. Let's throw a curveball at them and see how they handle it. And that's now initiating some rules changes in college football. Besides all that, how could this have been evaded if you're Ohio State? How could you have had a better chance, a better opportunity other than Will Howard running the ball sliding as time expires?
I mean, really, it goes back to just going through the entire game from start to finish, really, regardless of score. Ohio State played really well in that game. They just made a handful of errors, kind of like some of the errors you and I have been talking about already, that ended up costing them the game. That game could have been way different outside of a few ball bounces the wrong way for Ohio State. The way that it ended, yeah, obviously Will Howard can't slide, but you can't really put all of it on him. You can't put it all on the last play for one guy to take all of that blame. At the same time, I don't want to give Dan Lanning all the credit for throwing 12 men on the field there. Maybe it's a smart move on his end to say that that was on purpose. I don't know if I completely buy it. Either way, like you had mentioned, they're doing a rule change and not going to be able to pull that one again.
Yeah, I guess if you and he looks like a superstar. If that was Dan Lanning making that call, then hats off to him for exploiting the rules,
Yep.
right, and using them to his advantage. But I think it's a situation, kind of like we said in the pre-show. He's going to get a lot of accolades for it, going to get a lot of the credit for it. He's probably going to take it as if he did try to do it, even if he didn't really intend on doing that. In that instance, it made him look like a superstar. He's going to take all the credit for it. But is it 100% deserving? That's another conversation. So
Yep.
I digress. So Texas lost to Georgia. They got a big one this week against Vanderbilt. How are we
Yeah.
thinking about? What are we feeling about Quinn Ewers in Texas right now? Steve Sarkisian. How are the guys feeling in Arlington right now?
I hope they're not as surprised as I was by the outcome of that Georgia game. Um, I'm glad I didn't come on here and make picks for that game because I would have told everybody to bet the farm on Texas. I was all in on Texas. I thought -4.5 was free money. Um, Fortunately, I didn't bet it. If I would have, I probably would have done something nuts and teased it back closer to 9.5. I really like Texas that much. I have a bias. I was there in the big house back in September when Texas came in and showed us a thing or two about how to play football. So in my mind, going into that game, Texas was the best team in the country, and it wasn't even close. So that game shell shocked me. That game absolutely shell shocked me. Watching Quinn Ewers come out of the game and Arch Manning step in, I mean that was something else. That game is ammunition for the folks that say expanding the playoffs and adding teams to these conferences is actually a good thing. That's one of the games that I would point to.
Yeah, I just had to correct myself. I said Arlington. I meant Austin. Okay.
Austin.
Yeah, they got UT in Arlington too. Different cities there.
Yeah.
My bad.
Not as,
But yeah, they're in a good spot. And obviously Vanderbilt, they got some poise too.
yeah.
They beat Alabama, so it's like they're not anything to close your eyes at and be like, oh yeah, it's an easy win. Okay, Texas, they have everything to prove going forward. They're only fighting for position going forward, and the SEC is really winnable for any team right now. Every team that is a powerhouse team in the SEC has faltered so far, so it's there for the taking, and it goes kind of into segueing into a point. I'm not going to talk about it too much in depth right now, but just with how much of these conferences, these powerhouse conferences, have grown, but you've gotten rid of the regions. So it really makes fighting for position even more important now more than ever. So we'll have to see how that plays out going into the postseason. That's going to be something coming up in a new show here in the next week or so too. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. Got a big game: Penn State at Wisconsin. Penn State -6.5. This is one of our marquee games. What can you tell me about it?
I think it's a lookout game for Wisconsin, and I think it's a trap game for Penn State. Um, Nothing against Coach Franklin and what he's got going on there. Drew Aller looks better this year than he ever has. It's just I find it hard to believe that they're not looking ahead a bit for Ohio State next week. They host them in Happy Valley. They're not getting their whiteout game. They're getting a noon kickoff. Fox kind of ruined that for them. I'm just excited. This game could be electric. And even if it's not, we're really going to find out a little bit more about who Penn State is going into the Ohio State game next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I mean, both these teams are looking good, and they're holding their own in the Big Ten Conference. This is a position game, really, more likely than not. And you could even mention it as a potential trap game too for the sports bettors out there. I'd say if you're betting any Big Ten football, watch out
Yeah.
because you really got to know what you're dealing with. Maybe tease some stuff. I'm usually against teasing spreads,
Hmm.
but it might be in your best case to do that just to give yourself a little bit more of a safety net. Um, but doesn't I mean it just really depends on your betting style, what you want to do with that. Another one I want to look at: Mizzou and Bama. Alabama minus 17 and a half. Mizzou is a gritty team. Does this spread seem to be appropriate, or is this a little bit too much weighted on Alabama?
Based on how Mizzou's looked in the last few weeks, I'm kind of leaning towards it being a pretty fair spread. I just love the storyline here. Bama's already got 2 losses. If they drop this, they're most likely out of playoff contention. It's a conference game. Anything can happen here. 17 and a half points. Maybe Bama gets a little bit too comfortable. Who knows? I just think it's going to be very exciting to watch and see how the SEC shakes out even further.
I actually kind of related to Bama. Nick Saban weighed in on the Tua Tagovailoa press conference, and he said, he was mentioned about the Guardian caps. He's like, no, personal preference. I'm not going to wear a Guardian cap. I'm going to come back and play. And people have, mentioned, oh, is that because the CTE is just he's so far gone? He's not worried about the safety of the Guardian cap, etc. I guess kind of off topic, get a little bit out of our realm of experience here. Not too much, but how do we feel about Tua coming back and not wearing the Guardian cap, even though CTE has been a big concern for him?
So I must have read a meme report, some sort of you know sports meme account. I thought he retired. I thought when he got hit in the head, I thought he was done. I thought he was hanging it up. Maybe I'm just confusing that with everybody's prayers and tweets begging him to hang it up. Nobody wants to see Tua get hit like that again. He's a good guy. He's a sharp guy. As far as the Guardian cap goes, I don't see why you wouldn't wear it. Does it look a little wonky? Yeah. I mean, maybe we're going to say that now, and then maybe in 5 years they'll mandate the Guardian cap and we won't think it anymore. It'll take a couple years for us to get used to it, but who cares? I can say, when I have boys one day, if they want to play football, they're going to be wearing that Guardian cap to practice. I do not care. I do not care how goofy it looks. I don't care if their teammates make fun of them, lay them out, make them pay for it. I don't care. But I mean, you got to protect your noggin, man.
Yeah, you do. You can only take so many hits too before you're really in bad shape. So it's really nothing to mess with. But at the same time, it's a game of football. It's a combat sport,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be brutal at times, as we've seen. And obviously, the game. I've criticized the game, both college and mostly in regards to the kickoff in the NFL, and they've kept the same kickoff as it always has been essentially in college. That could possibly change in years going forward, subsequent years from now. Not sure if it will. It might. But I guess real quick, how do you mitigate a combat sport and also bring in safety, diligence to the safety of protecting the head, protecting concussion protocols, et cetera. But also, how do you find that happy medium? Because you got to have the brutality aspect of football has to be in existence for it to be football. Otherwise, it becomes less football and more something else. How do you mitigate that? How do you find that happy medium?
That's a bit above my pay grade. Um, my opinion of it really is just that it's a violent sport. Hits happen for these guys that are playing in the league. Get in there, make your money, retire early if you can. There's other things out for you. All these guys, they've got their degrees. They went to school. They're sharp guys. Make your money and get out. Fortunately for most quarterbacks, they don't take that many hits, especially to the head. But in situations like this, I mean, Tua, he's a well-spoken guy. He's a good-looking guy. The dude can go be in commercials. The guy can go sell something. I mean, I'd hate to see him ruin that opportunity to go out there and try to keep playing. The problem is that these guys, I'm not built like them. That's why they're out there, other than me only being 6 feet tall. That's why they're out there. They've got that mentality that they're not going to quit. They're not going to stop. They're going to keep fighting. It doesn't matter if it's a regular season game or if it's a 7-on-7 in August. They're going to go all out for it because they're competitive. That's what they do. That's how they got there. I would hope that they're doing everything they can to limit contact and limit hits in camp. I know there's other types of injuries that can happen that are non-contact injuries, but for the sake of these guys' heads, they're putting it all out there on the line for us, for our entertainment. So I show these guys some grace. Jabril Peppers just got in trouble a couple weeks ago. Looks like he was into some cocaine and looks like he hit somebody. And it's just, as much as we want to sit back and go, oh man, yeah, he's terrible, I'm writing that guy off, he's a bad guy. Dude's a safety. Dude ran the Wildcat at Michigan. The dude was returning kicks and punts for us at Michigan. I don't think you can count how many times the guy got hit in the head. I mean, show the guy some grace. What he did, yeah, it's not great. It's not. It's wrong. It's wrong. But I'm praying for everybody in that story. I mean, I hope he gets better. And we don't know what's going on up there. The guy's taking hits to the head, and I hope he finds a way to figure that out and to get right.
Yeah, me too. I wish for the best for him. Obviously, he's faltered and he's had some good games in the past, but he's kind of more or less fallen off as far as one of the powerhouse top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. So we'll see how he rebounds from this. I hope he can rebound gracefully, and if he does come back and play, he finds some of that strength again. He can find some support from his teammates, from his coaches, and his fan base, and make something of this season and make something of the rest of his career, because I want him to do well, as we all do. Last game here on the docket, Notre Dame versus Navy. This is just a fun game. Both teams are doing very well. Yeah. How are we feeling looking at this one?
I'm so excited for this game. I couldn't bet on this game either way. I've got two opinions, two theories. One is that Navy could pull this one out in a really close one. Notre Dame doesn't know what to do with their offense. Maybe they struggle a little bit at protecting the ball. Couple Riley Leonard interceptions, maybe a couple of Jeremiah Love fumbles, maybe some special teams mishaps. But I think it would still be close if Notre Dame could pull this one off. I think the other side of that coin could be Notre Dame winning this one something like 40-10. All I know is if you're a college football fan, you got to watch this. Noon kickoff tomorrow. It's going to be a banger.
You mentioned NIU and Notre Dame's loss to Northern Illinois. And how easy, I mean, you said the spread was 28.5, right? In that game?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2. Yeah. And then you're looking at 13.5 here. I guess who's to say Navy doesn't come out and, preserve that 6-0 record, go 7-0 at home against with the midshipmen in attendance. Who's to say it can't happen? That's why this game is so fun to watch, because of where both these teams are at in the season and how much of potential there is for Navy to come out and win this game.
Yeah. I think Navy could be at a bit of a disadvantage being ranked now, so maybe Notre Dame's not going to overlook them the way they did NIU. But either way, I mean, Notre Dame's going to be looking ahead. They've got Florida State. Their season's dead, but Florida State's still dangerous. They've got USC coming up. They've got Army. Notre Dame could be overlooking what Navy's going to bring tomorrow, and I cannot wait for that game.
It's going to be a hell of a game. Good deal. That brings up the end of the podcast here, the Gin College podcast, GCP. We're just happy to be back, and it's only going to get better from here for everybody watching and listening in. So, Sam, any final words, final thoughts going into this week of college football? Week 9. We're in week 9.
It's can't miss weekend. A lot of great games on. If you're like me, you like to get lazy on Saturday and sit down and watch all the games, tomorrow's extra special because there's a UFC pay-per-view starting at 2 o'clock tomorrow. It's going to be magical. My butt's going to be on the couch from, I'd say, 10 to 2 in the morning. So it's going to be a great game or a great day, and go blue.
Hell yeah, looking forward to it. Good deal. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for tuning into the Gin College podcast. Make sure to check us out in all of our links at the bottom of this podcast in the description, and we'll talk to you guys here next time. For now, I'm John J. II here with Sam Vitale. Go green, and we'll see you next time.